Howdy Twitchies, today we're going to be talking about the top 10 counter items in Deadlock, so let's Twitch into it. Now for these top 10 counter items, guys, these are going to be in order of how often they are useful, the most variety of characters that these items are good on and good against. So number 10 doesn't necessarily mean that in its specific situation it's not extra super useful and maybe more useful than number 4, but it's going to be a less widely applicable item. And starting off with number 10, we're going to be going right into Phantom Strike. Phantom Strike, fantastic item on characters like Mo and Abrams, who can really get a lot of use out of it. With Mo, you Phantom Strike, immediately ulti. With Abrams, you Phantom Strike and you immediately dash. You get that wall stun. A lot of value coming out of this Phantom Strike. One thing going against it is a 6,400 soul item, so it does take more of an investment in order to get into it. And obviously, if you're a squishy type character, this item loses a lot of value because it's teleporting you right to the enemy. So if you're a character like a Gray Talon, not very useful for you as a counter item, although useful against you as a counter item to knock your ass out of the sky. For number 9, we have got ourselves Curse, another 6,400 item, so it is going to require a lot of investment, but a particularly great item on a character like Hayes, who's going to come out of stealth, smack you with that 3.25 second silence and disarm duration. You can't use any abilities to get away from her, and it comes with 20% weapon damage, which makes it really valuable over on gun characters. This is a particularly valuable item against anybody that has really good, really fast escapes. Against characters like Pocket, Curse is wonderful because it's often impossible for a Pocket to go ahead and use his suitcase in order to immune this, although you technically can because it is a very small projectile, so you actually can barely get into your suitcase or go ahead and do a counter spell or something like that to get away from Curse. Very, very difficult. And also if you're against a Haze and she's in stealth, almost a 0% chance you're going to be able to get that off. So Curse, a really good item for making sure that people that you can't quite catch, like a Pocket or somebody like a Yamato who's got an ultimate that makes her immune to all CC, if you can get a Curse on her at first and then kill her within that Curse duration, extremely useful for you, and it'll help you bring down that Yamato before she gets all those protections and becomes an unstoppable force. Number 8 on our top 10 list of best counter items in Deadlock, we're going to have ourselves E-Shift. So a little bit of a switch here from number 10 and number 9, which are more of offensive abilities. This is going to be on the defensive side. Once again, you're going to see a lot of these ones towards the bottom of our list are more expensive, 6,400 souls. Doesn't mean that these items aren't as good. It just means it does require more of an investment. You have to have more souls. You got to be more thoughtful moving into these items. You can't just kind of buy them willy-nilly at 1 second when you need them. E-Shift, great on a character like Pocket. Pop that E-Shift. Buy yourself time to come out into your cloak if you don't have your suitcase up, or buy yourself time to get your suitcase cooldown back up in order to go from E-Shift immediately into your suitcase, or just use it for a little bit of extra spirit resist, spirit power, or use it to go ahead and wait out to get your leap back up so you can majestic leap out of there. A lot of capabilities here on Pocket, and really any character that needs to buy themselves just a couple seconds of time. It can be used as an immunity as well if you have enough foresight in order to immune an ability coming towards you, right? You can go ahead and use this to immunity frame through yourself, some sort of stun, something like that has a longer wind-up time. Not quite as good as a direct immunity like a Pocket suitcase, which is going to let you kind of instantly get into it. It's just going to require a little bit more time to get used to it. And so going ahead and clicking that active while it is itself instant, oftentimes I find that I use it more so to get myself into actual ability cooldown so I can pop that E-Shift, get into my suitcase, and then immediately have myself my getaway already ready to go. Very strong item for defenses against like an Infernus or something to get away from his stun, or just to buy yourself a little bit more time for your team to show up. An extra 4 seconds for your whole team to show up for a rotation can be the difference between you living and the entire enemy team dying. Number 7, we're going the way of the support, guys. It's going to be a Divine Barrier. Divine Barrier, less about an item that you're buying for yourself, more about an item that you're buying for other people on your team. Once again, going to be a 6,400 soul item, so it's a large investment, but if you're playing a character like Kelvin or Paige, Dynamo, something along that sort, chances are you already have a Guardian Ward from earlier in the game because it's such a good item, which means upgrading into Divine Barrier is going to be a little bit cheaper for you. But this item removes all non-stun debuffs from the target, plus gives them that barrier and that additional movement speed. So while it's good as an item just to give out a 600 HP shield, there ain't nothing wrong with that, especially if you're on a page and you're combining that with your other shields. Really what this item is great for is using it as a immunity, a debuff removal for your team. So you've got somebody that's got a Infernus bleed on them plus the toxic bullet. You go ahead and use the Divine Barrier, now they don't bleed out because it goes ahead and removes all that. You've got somebody that is currently in the middle of a non-stun CC. Go ahead and get them right out of that. Fairly low cooldown, especially if you get that Transcendent cooldown paired with it to go ahead and lower it a little bit. Really useful for those team fights. And if you have one hyper carry on your team that's doing all of the work, you've got like one Wraith that's got 40k souls and everybody else is at 28. Great item just to go ahead and focus on that one specific person and keep them alive throughout all the CC, throughout all of their mispositioning in order to make sure you win the game. Moving into number 6 on the list, we have ourself Knockdown. Knockdown is a classic on page because you go ahead and buy that knockdown, you throw it on somebody, and then it sets you up for landing your 3, so they go from that knockdown stun directly into a root, kind of a classic page combo. But outside of just that combo, applying a stun after 2 seconds is really, really valuable. This can be debuff removed, so you got to keep that in mind, but for getting a Vindicta out of the air, a Grey Talon out of the air, for putting pressure on a pocket in order to use his suitcase to generically set up abilities for your team, whether or not you're on page and you're setting up your route, or if you're just setting up abilities for your team. If they see that knockdown on somebody, they can get ready to follow up immediately with the full wombo combo. Having a knockdown is always a valuable item, plus it just messes up the general momentum of an enemy player. If they've got 1 or 2 players on the enemy team that are doing really well, just throwing a knockdown on them can either force them into buying something like a counterspell, a debuff remover, some sort of counter item that wastes some of their souls so they don't get to go into direct offensive capabilities, or it just puts a little pressure on them to where they have to be a little bit more careful, play a little bit further back because they know that you've got some additional CC on your team as well in order to deal with them. Highly recommend getting more knockdowns into your builds. Before we get into our top 5 counter item, guys, I wanted to do an honorary mention to an item, Enduring Speed, because Enduring Speed is technically a counter item. It gives you that slow resistance, right? So that way you're not getting slowed as much. But Enduring Speed is such a universal item right now that I buy on almost every single hero. It's not really a counter item so much as it's just getting additional movement speed is a vastly important stat. So if you're a character that has any sort of slow movement, or you don't have a lot of movement in your kit like a Geist, you're just going to be buying Enduring Movement Speed every single game. So while it is technically a counter item, I don't really qualify it as such because I almost buy it 100% of the time on every single character. Now, before we get into those top 5, let me know down in the comments what you think made the top 5 list and why. Number 5, it's got to be Slowing Hex. Slowing Hex for me is the more generically grabbable version of Knockdown. Knockdown's a little bit more specific for trying to counter channels and that kind of stuff. Slowing Hex gives you almost all of the value of Knockdown for half the price, outside of that interrupting of channeled abilities like a Beat Bop Ultimate. Slowing Hex is going to give you the counter to movement based items and abilities. The value that you get out of Slowing Hex cannot be overstated. Against a character like Calico, it means she can't use her dash, she can't use her kitty, and she can't use her ultimate. She literally cannot play the game unless she gets a debuff remover in order to deal with the Slowing Hex. It moves into Vortex Warp, which is situationally a pretty decent item, but honestly, just grabbing the 1600 on Slowing Hex ruins so many heroes' abilities to play the game in Deadlock. It is not that expensive. You can fit it into basically any build. Highly recommend looking at grabbing Slowing Hex, whether you're a DPS player, a support player, a tank player, it doesn't matter. Having a Slowing Hex is going to help you get more kills. More kills means you're stealing more farm is more better. Moving in now, guys, to our top 4. These 4 items, honestly, you could buy basically every single game. They're almost always going to be useful. While I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying all 4 every single game, you're probably going to be buying at least 1, if not 2 of these 4 items every single game right now because of how generically applicable they are to every single hero and basically against every single hero. Number 4, we have ourselves Reactive Barrier. This is a shield that you get after You get hit with some sort of CC ability. You're getting smacked by that crowd control. You get 1 stamina back, which is honestly very valuable. But more importantly, you're getting the spirit scaling barrier on you. This is a classic item when people are going against like a bebop. People often think, oh, I got to get myself a reactive barrier. But it doesn't just end there. It's basically almost every character in Deadlock has some form of CC, which means you're going to apply Reactive Barrier against almost every single character. Infernus stuns you, congratulations. You got a Reactive Barrier. Mo ult you, congratulations. You get a Reactive Barrier. Haze Dagger, congratulations. Reactive Barrier. In the laning phase, an extremely strong item, but if you're on a character that is going to be buying a spirit style of build anyway, this barrier very, very easily becomes like 500-600 on the barrier, which means you're getting like an extra quarter of your HP on a squishy character. Highly, highly valuable in the early game, but also later in the game. If you get 20 minutes into a game and you realize you're starting to just then get CC'd, maybe their other 2 lanes had a lot more of that compared to yours, there's nothing wrong with grabbing a reactive barrier in the mid game to help stay alive. Number 3, a lot like reactive barrier, it's gonna be spirit shielding. Spirit shielding is the generically more applicable version of reactive barrier, whereas reactive, you got to get hit by CC. Spirit shielding, you just got to get hit by a little bit of spirit damage. The damage threshold is only 150 within 3.5 seconds. Pretty much every character in Deadlock is going to be able to do that to you. So in almost every laning phase in the game right now, you can buy a spirit shielding as an early item, and you're probably going to get that shield. People often think about this item when you're against like a Lash or a Grey Talon, but it works against almost every hero in the game because 150 damage threshold is just not a lot, especially because you're laning against 2 people. If somebody hits you with an ability that is 90 damage and somebody else hits you with another ability that is 80 damage, congratulations, you're proccing yourselves with spirit shielding. That shield that you get once that barrier procs gives you a nice 8 seconds in order to play very, very aggressive with your bonus 300 HP. And if you don't get spirit shielding in the laning phase, you'll probably find that you're losing a lot of trades. You'll see a lot of people just utilize spirit shielding and reactive barrier for that matter, just to go for trades when that shield is up, because that is effectively bonus HP that you can utilize. And even if you lose the trade by say 100 HP, you actually won that trade by 200 because of the barrier. Moving on to the second best counter item in the game, is going to be Debuff Remover, guys. These top 2 really shouldn't be a surprise to you if you've been playing Deadlock for a long time. Debuff Remover, one of the crucial items in Deadlock. If you played Smite, this is almost around the idea of a beads, just not quite as strong. Shout outs to Purification Beads and my old Smite players. This is going to purge all non-ultimate negative effects currently applied to you. So we're talking, it doesn't work on a pocket ultimate, but it does work on an Infernus Bleed, it works on a Toxic Bullet, it works on a Knockdown, it works on a Slowing Hex, anything like that. It will not directly get you out of a Mo ulti, but it will reduce the duration of that Mo ulti by 30% because of that debuff resistance. This item, 3,200 souls, is a fantastic value for this item. You can build it on every single hero in the game. It's always going to be useful because right now you're always going to be against some form of CC, so 30% less crowd control on you is always a good thing. Generically, you're going to need to buy some green items every single game, and this gives you debuff, resist, and bonus health. Plus, when you proc the effect, it actually gives you a heal and movement speed. Movement speed, fantastic. Who doesn't want some of that? And it's going to counter every hero in the game. Every hero in the game either has basically some sort of CC that this is useful against, or some sort of bleed effect, or they're going to buy an item to proc on you. They're going to buy that Slowing Hex. They're going to buy that Knockdown. I can't imagine a situation in Deadlock where Debuff Remover would not be at minimum an 8 out of 10 good item, regardless of what hero you are playing and what hero you are against. You should almost always be considering putting this item in your builds. If you look at any of my builds that I make for any character, I always have a debuff remover option down in the optional, and I always have items like a spirit shielding and a reactive barrier, and of course I always have the #1 counter item in Deadlock down there as well. And the #1 counter item in Deadlock, applicable every single game on every single character. You know it, I know it. It's Counterspell, guys. Counterspell is an item that quite literally has counter in the name, and it counters every single ability in Deadlock. So when you go ahead and grab Counterspell, the stats on it are honestly decent. A little bit of HP, a little bit of spirit power. It's a green item. You're going to need green items no matter what, whether you're playing a gun character or a spirit character. Gives you a little bit of heal and spirit power when it procs. Cool Beans gives you a little bit of movement speed. You know we love movement speed here. And for 0.8 seconds of that spell parry duration, you are going to be immune from all enemy abilities and items. Now, one of the classic problems with Counterspell that people think is, well, if I Counterspell and I block a Great Talon arrow and then I immediately get hit by a Mo ulti, well, then I get CC'd by the Mo ulti. Not true. Counterspell is the entire 0.8 second duration. So theoretically, in a crazy world where you're going against every hero in Deadlock and they manage to press every single button and every single item at the exact same time, you would immune every single one of those buttons. For 0.8 seconds, you are essentially immune to everything in the game. So a classic use of Counterspell is against Lash ulti. He's about to pull you. Counterspell, don't get Lash ulti. But this works against everything. And Furnace about to ulti you, super easy to time. Counterspell, don't get hit by it. Mo ulti, a lot more difficult to time, but if you know he's about to come up and ulti you, Counterspell stops that Mo ulti. A great way to prevent yourself from getting hit by every ability, and because it literally applies to every ability, every ultimate, everything in the game. You're about to get pocket ultied? No, you're not. Counterspell, baby. There is literally no occasion where this item isn't absolutely meta because it works in 100% of the scenarios 100% of the time. So there is never an opportunity where you could buy Counterspell where it would be a bad item because every hero in the game has abilities and you can counter all of those abilities. Hope you guys all learned something here today. Hope you got some new items to be throwing in your builds, whether you're buying them every game or whether you're just thinking about buying them now, throwing them down in a little optional section in your builds. Hope you guys are going to be having a great time utilizing some of these items. If you'd like to support the Twitchiest community, please do all those YouTube things. The liking and the commenting really does help. Tell your friends about the videos. We're really going to be putting a lot of work into this channel to make this a premium channel for a Deadlock where you can come learn about the game, learn about items, what to build, how to play your characters, all of that good stuff. So if that's something that's interesting to you, let your friends know they'll want to get better at Deadlock, guys. If you'd like to support the Twitchiest community extra, there's some sponsor stuff down in the description with Cook Unity if you want a good food service, and with Dark Epoch if you want a free PC game to play. Thank you guys for your support, and as always, folks, have a Twitchin' day, y'all.